most cooperative with me when I've had to come in and get some of these things ready ahead of time. And I might say I had a little trouble finding an empty spot because there's so much going on here. And I think it's wonderful. Yesterday there was book chat in the morning and a children's movie in the afternoon, and today crafts for the kids. You know, we're just so fortunate in Marshall to have this wonderful facility, and I know most of you take advantage of it. I wanted to tell you how this all came about. Violet Schaffner, who was one of the early members of the choir, kept a wonderful scrapbook. And after I knew she had it, and she had let me borrow it several times when some of our family was in, because the Shaw and Fritcher kids' mothers were in the choir, who were my mother's sisters, and the Ilyas kids were real involved in it as well. So I've had it at my house several times, and we enjoyed it so much. And then now that Vi has passed away, her daughter, Sheila Schatz, was so gracious to share it with me again, but still there's only one scrapbook and all those pictures. So she let me make copies of the pictures, and we did this shadow box. Todd Stokes, who has the golden frame in Terre Haute, used pictures from it and designed the shadow box, and I think it's just lovely. And it has some jewelry from Violet and from Mindy Delp's mother, Geneva Johnson. Where'd you go, Mindy? There she is. Okay. So there are things in there that belong to them, and side by side, was that your mother's copy or Priscilla's? Okay. And I'm going to backtrack a minute. I had a note on here. I want to recognize the ladies who are present who sang with the choir in later years. I don't think you're not that old, so you didn't sing with them when they first formed and when they were going to most of their contests. But that's Priscilla White and Carol Curran and Martha Ann Bush Markle. And Polly Inkoff sang with them a couple times, you told me, but not a contest, right? And we have some children of those choir ladies who we just have a bond because our mothers sang in the choir, and when we're together we talk about things we remember and how close our mothers were. And that's Laura Tingley and Mindy Delp and Sheila Schatz, and I haven't skipped anybody, have I? And here Patty just came in. Good. Patty was one of the younger members of the choir. Patty Travis McCammon. Okay, I'll keep going. But Violet had kept her scrapbook so meticulously. I think she even covered some of the pages in contact paper, don't you? It was before, what do we do now? Push it through the machine. Before laminating, so we all know how difficult it is to get that contact paper to stick, right? So she had done all of that. And Sheila brought the scrapbook, and as you can see, it's old. But it still has a lot of wonderful information in it. When I was looking to get some more of this information together, I realized this is the 65th year from when the choir first entered the state contest. And that contest they won. They were actually formed, here again from Violet's scrapbook, in 1950 when Mildred Bush was the president of the auxiliary and Vi Euler was the commander of the Legion. I did a presentation about the choir on Memorial Day. We wanted to have the shadow box on display where more people could see it. But I tried to keep it short because it was kind of a captive audience. I knew not everybody was really interested in the choir. So I think I kept it pretty short. But when the program was over, Priscilla came up to me and said, "I've never heard you talk so long." So Priscilla,
I meant that in a good way.
I know, but I'm going to talk longer tonight. So hang on, because I think you're all here because you're interested in the choir. So I've got more to tell you about that. If you haven't attended the Memorial Day program at the Legion in recent years, you really need to. It's a very nice program. The one this year, a gentleman, where was he from? Does anybody know? Palestine. Recited from memory some wonderful poems, and the ladies who do the quilts presented the Quilts of Valor to 4 veterans. I don't believe any of those ladies are here. But they were beautiful quilts and such a nice thing to do. And I also want to mention that Priscilla Wyke and her Women of Note have paid tribute to the choir. It was at the Christian Church, and I don't remember how many years ago, and that's in Violet's scrapbook, and I was going to look again at the year. Do you know what year that was? I know what I wore.
Probably about 15 years ago, I would say.
Has it been that long? I'm pretty sure my mother was still living, but I'm not positive. She didn't come, but Violet came, and Geneva, I think.
Yeah, you guys sang with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was a nice thing to do. And Priscilla wrote in her column, Come Walk With Me, about them a few weeks ago. And if you haven't seen the EIUR story, Priscilla gave a very nice talk about them, as well as the Women of Note and Singing Sam's. Was that what?
Forever Young.
Forever Young. Thank you. They made a record that Judy Idle brought, her old record, a 78. It only has 2 songs on it. You'll Never Walk Alone on one side and Let My People Go on the other. And thank goodness Sally Turner Ramsey, the sister of Dr. Turner, made a CD of that record. We have, Violet had a couple other CDs that I kind of think they were copied on a reel-to-reel, weren't they, Sheila? So then when they were turned into a CD, the sound wasn't that good. But the record, they evidently recorded in a studio. Were any of you ladies on that recording, you younger ones? So I really don't know when the recording was made. I'm guessing late 50s. I don't know for sure.
I was on one that Vi had, because Vi told me she had it and she had it, whatever.
Okay, but
So
this
it
one...
might have been more recently than.
This one is just You'll Never Walk Alone and Let My People Go. And it is the background music for the DVD, which we're going to show. And the DVD has a lot of the pictures from Violet's scrapbook, and also a few pictures that I found in a folder, but they're mostly Violet's. So, oh, and Mildred Bush has the beautiful solo in Let My People Go. And thank you, Allison. I'm not a technology person, so Allison is my right-hand man here. you. We might play it one more time at the end. We'll see how long I go on. And I hope that some of you will tell about things you remember too as we go along. It's supposed to be, or I want it to be, a time of reminiscing and different people telling things that you remember too. When, as I said, it was 65 years ago, they won their first state contest, which qualified them to go to the national contest in Miami. And they took second place there. But then they continued to compete at the state level, and when they won state, then they went on to national. So if you noticed at the end, they won national 3 times and took second place 3 times. And I didn't mention John Bush as a child of a choir member. Sorry, John. Who else did I forget? Is that it? Okay. But it was just such an unusual thing. These young women from a little town, several of them were what I would call trained soloists and musicians, but not necessarily all, and they got along so well. And possibly some of them were just more than glad to be part of the chorus. They didn't necessarily have to be a soloist, and it was wonderful, the ones who did have the talent to be a soloist. And if you noticed Marian Fitzgerald's accompanying through now she was trained, and she went on even became an organist, and she took a lot of classes. Carol, you're her niece? Cousin. Okay. Do you remember much about her training?
Well, I'm sure she went to DePaul. And I don't think she graduated there in music, but she did go there 2 to 3 years, I think.
And I felt that Mother and Marian, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, she did teach at Paris, too.
That's right, she did. She got her degree later, didn't she? I'd forgotten that.
I think she went on and got her master's degree from DePaul University.
Okay.
From where do you?
DePaul, I
Well,
thought.
I knew that was part of her training.
Well, she was the organist at our church, at the Methodist church, and oh my, she played beautifully. Does anybody else want to throw in anything right here, or shall I just keep going? But don't hesitate, really.
Mary Ann?
Please.
You had mentioned TV shows that we did for several years.
Okay.
I got in on those.
I remember those.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many?
I don't know. Yes, I did. I was in that list. I think it was 3 or 4. And it's because that was when, they used to find local sponsors and the Post paid for it. The Legion Post sponsored it and paid for it.
Okay.
And that's why they did it. I mean, they remember when they used to do local programs on
Yeah. I remember being in the audience. I mean, Susan and I went over to the studio and watched. I don't think there was a big audience, but they allowed one time. We thought Mother had left her glasses at home. So I suppose I was, 17. Anyway, I had my license. So Susan and I quick ran those glasses over to her at Terre Haute, which she didn't need. But then we got to be in the studio while they performed. So I suppose that was a little fishy. And I did want to mention they were sponsored by the Legion and by the Auxiliary, because they took these trips and they earned money. They put on dinners, rummage sales and bake sales. They performed concerts and sold tickets. Some of those pictures you probably recognize were on the stage at the Legion. And of course, the Marshall community was very generous to donate and to help them. When I first got here this evening, who asked me, did they have to try out? Sheila? I don't remember that they tried out. Does anybody else? Carol or?
Helen just invited people.
Okay.
If you didn't get invited, then
Do you? Pat?
It's a privilege to be asked to be a part of it.
And
But you didn't want to get out.
the wives of several teachers who were here for a few years. Rachel Blemker was in the picture, and Carolyn Jackson and Phyllis Gaddis. I thought that might have been partly because Emmy Fritcher, Mother's sister, and Jean Davidson worked in the high school office. So they kind of got acquainted, I guess, with some of those women. They did their traveling by train. I can remember, well, something else here. If they started in 50, went to their first contest in 51, I talked to Susan, you know, I sent her the DVD. She said, we were little when they started. And I didn't remember that we were that little, but I can remember being at the train when they left and crying. And no wonder I cried. But I've got to give a plug to my dad and to the husbands, I'm sure, of all those women and grandparents and aunts and uncles who took care of the kids while they were gone. Mother and Daddy had just started the funeral home in the early 40s, mid to early. And then started this choir in 50 and 51, and it took a lot of Mother's time, and she was very involved in the business. But I so remember how proud Daddy was of her. And I'm sure all the husbands were, and mothers and sisters and so on. It was such a thrill when they came back. I think it was from Miami when they had won second in the nation. We met them at the old train station in Terre Haute that's been torn down. Von Arnie and the high school band were there. Of course, you wouldn't do that today, but then they did. And then we came to when we got to the edge of town, there were convertibles waiting, and the choir ladies rode on the back of the convertible. And I don't know if that was the time, but at least I think it was another time out at the Marshall train station, they had the Legion Duck for the kids to ride in. And that's, I think, about the most common thing that when I talk to other children of choir members, they'll say, do you remember riding in that duck? and we all do. And I called Steve Arnie just a couple days ago to ask him if he had any idea what had become of that duck. And he didn't. And he said there's nobody else who would, because everybody's gone. But for a long time it sat up in the yard there at the Legion. Oh, I don't want to leave anything out. When they traveled by train, people made jokes. At the time I didn't understand what they were. They called Mother Madam Moore, who was traveling with her girls. But they just had so much fun. They just laughed. And Don Davidson made a whip, and Susan, my sister Susan, has it. It had Madam Moore on the handle, and then he had like braided leather, you know. So it was quite an impressive whip. As far as I know, she never had to use it. After I talked at the Legion on Memorial Day, Agnes Miller came up to me, and I asked her to come tonight, but she had another commitment. And she told that she remembers going to Barbara Daly's basement. You remember when Barbara had the nursery school just behind the telephone company? And she said the ladies from the auxiliary got together and made posters, made signs to welcome them back. Did you do that, Rose?
Yes.
I thought, anybody else who did that? I guess you're telling on yourself here. Just a little bit. Okay. But they just had such a sisterhood. They made beautiful music together and they cared deeply for each other. My dad I know other people have said this too about being such good friends. They not only laughed together, they cried together. And they were truly good friends. And you know, when you get so many women together like that, I can say that often there will be bickering and jealousy, and I suppose there was a certain amount of it. Carol says, no, I was never aware of it. I think everyone just...
Your mother was a wonderful leader. I mean, she wouldn't allow anything.
Okay. Well, those were different times too, you know, that people were unselfish. But I couldn't help but think possibly it was partly the music. I'm going to go back a little here. When we had music teacher Becky Kennedy at South School, she's retired, but she had a poster on the door of her room that said, "If you can't teach me to fly, teach me to sing." And I'm no singer. I did not get it. I'm sorry to say I didn't get any of my mother's musical ability. My sister Susan did. Susan is a wonderful musician and has a lot of talent. And a lot of mother's talent, I know, it was God-given. I mean, she went to college for 2 years. She graduated in 1929 and had 5. She was one of 6 children. So her high school principal, I remember she used to talk about how grateful she was. He saw to it that she got a scholarship so she could go to Indiana State Teachers College for 2 years. But from the time she was young, she played the piano, she could arrange music, she could transpose music. I can remember she would have those little blank staff pages, you know. She would plink, plink, plink around on the keyboard, and then she'd write for the girls what their part would be. And I'm happy to say she shared that talent. She played at church and directed the choir and played for funerals and weddings, and but she loved it. You know, she loved it dearly. But some of the words I think were inspiring to their songs. "You'll Never Walk Alone," which is on the record. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. "Side by side, after all had their quarrels and parted, we'll be the same as we started." Just traveling along, singing a song side by side. One of my favorites, and they sang it to us when they were at the train station. And I can picture them in that one picture that they're all in their hats with their mom, "Stay as sweet as you are." And the harmony in that is beautiful. Let's see, I was going to mention some of those words. "Night and day or old and gray, near to me or afar, night and day I pray that you'll always stay as sweet as you are." I love that one. Mother and Marion, I think, were the core of the group. I could see it in their eyes. You know, when Marion would come by the house or they'd talk on the phone or something, They just were truly fond of each other. So I think that had a lot to do with the good feelings in the group.
Mary Ann, they respected each other as towns. They fed off of each other too.
Okay? Yeah, I think so. I think so.
We were talking about certain events and things that you remember. When we traveled by train, it certainly wasn't like it is today. You didn't have on blue jeans and tattered shirt. We were all dressed up. I mean, high heels, suit, and our nice dresses. You remember that, Carol? And just, you know, it was just really something. And people would come through the train cars. They'd look at us, you know, because they wondered what we were doing. Well, I think we even sang a few songs. I think some people requested, you're a singing group, well, sing me a song.
I bet you did too.
And I also remember one time when we were in Chicago, we were having dinner one evening in a very nice restaurant. I can't remember.
George Diamonds or Trader Vic's?
And so, of course, here we were at this big long table, and the place was filled, and the people were all very nicely dressed, and so they kept wondering, you know, who we were and what we did. And so several of them asked us to sing a song or two, and we did in that nice restaurant. It's a nice memory to have.
Did Mother have her pitch pipe? Did you gave us
I don't remember. She probably
Or she
did
could have
that.
just hummed the parts, probably.
Yeah,
First
she did that a lot.
Anybody else?
Did your mother select the music that they sang?
Did she select?
Select the music.
I presume. There again, anybody? No?
No.
They sang a lot of patriotic songs, beautiful patriotic songs, but we don't have copies of those. Priscilla tells me when at church when we sing Battle Hymn of the Republic, she said, "Oh, that always makes me think of Helen." And I love. There's so many beautiful ones.
Mary Ann, there's
Please.
one thing that, and you people who are into music really big time, but the one thing that the alto section was the best alto section I've ever heard.
Really?
Those voices, I mean, if you listen to these songs again, just notice those full tones. You very rarely have a chorus that has that good section, and that's just what you need.
And that was
Undergird everything else.
Emmy Fritcher and Pat White and Geneva.
Right?
Who did Vi sing alto?
Betty Abel.
Yes, Betty Abel. Is that it? Did you sing alto, Pat? Sure you would have.
Emmy. Yeah, gorgeous.
I'm sure I could hear Aunt Jean on Let My People Go.
Yeah.
Annie was off. She had a great voice.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to, this goes right along with what you said, Priscilla. In 1957, the choir performed at the Kiwanis Club in the Mayflower Room in the Terre Haute House. And then years after that, 93 I'm thinking, when the Terre Haute House was being torn down, they did a special section in the newspaper asking people to send in pictures and things about organizations that had met at the Mayflower Room. And here again, thanks to Violet, she sent in a picture of the choir with a quote by Frederick Black. Used to do critiques of musical performances, and I think plays too. And she also, there was one of a Hillman party. You know the one I mean. But the one of the choir had been in the rotogravure section, you know, the brown section, and there's a copy of it back there. But here's just a couple of things that Frederick Black said in his write-up. They had a superior quality vocal presentation, which was unusually fine vocal quality throughout the wide range of dynamics they employed. How about that? I had to write this down for sure. The diction was most commendable. Every word was understood. And he also mentioned, if I may brag on my mother, the firm but unobtrusive and unaffected direction of Mrs. Moore. And then I'm glad you're here, Carol. He also went on to say, Carol Curran was the pleasing soloist in So's I Can Write My Name. Do you remember it? Don't you? And Mildred Bush sang a lovely obligato in America the Beautiful. And another number that he liked that they performed there was Autumn Leaves. So I hope you'll take the time to look more at the pictures over there. I put names on several of them. Some, it's the same people, just a different way of posing in the pictures. The ones with flags and on a stage, I'm sure that's at the competitions. You can tell the ones from the Legion, and in the DVD at the Legion when they presented a program, and I'm sure they presented more than one. But I have programs back there too from some of those.
You were talking about the alto section.
Oh, you were an alto too.
Yes, and she asked me to fill in at a couple of performances. One was here in Marshall. I don't remember for what, but then we drove somewhere in cars to the other. But I was so enamored by the alto section, it was hard for me to sing. You know, and I just felt very privileged that she asked me to fill in.
That's nice. Martha, you haven't taken a turn yet. Are you ready?
If I can get out of the chair. I do not, so don't ask me, do you still dance? Tell, but it's not quite the same as it was. You know, talking about the train and all, I decided that all the kids would get together and we would have a meal for all the people when they came home after winning. And I guess Daddy let me borrow the truck. But anyway, there was a chair in the back and I sat on it, and we all waited for the train to get there, and it was wonderful when it did, and we were so happy. And my mother couldn't believe that I had cooked a thing. Oh, no. And, you know, you were talking about being a member of the choir. I can remember what I wore. I can remember where I was standing when Emmy came up to me and said, Martha, will you sing with us in the auxiliary choir? You know, I'm like Mary Ann. She can tell when her mother has done something special. Mother had an absolutely fabulous voice. There was no doubt about that. And I didn't get as much as she had, but those high A's and all that she was singing, people try it someday. You'll be surprised how hard it really is. And you know, Helen would say, Carol, Martha Ann, and Mrs. Hum, who was the minister, her husband was the minister in the Congregational Church. She would pick us out, and we did numbers like that together. So here I was, getting to do that, and then, you know, it was so much fun. I had gotten this wonderful opportunity to go to Europe and went to so many places. And then my brother said, but you didn't send me to Europe. How come you'd send her? But anyway, we did a whole show around my trip. And there's one picture that I can see myself. I was probably as tall as besides Pat White, and that was in the choir, so I was always usually in the second row. But remember, I was the younger ones, and of course course, I wouldn't expect to be only in the second row. But anyway, it was probably, then I can remember when Jim Marco came into my life. Choir was important, but Jim was really important. So, but anyway, Mary Ann, this has been such, I cried through the first two numbers you did. And, you know, I have a 33 1/3 that a Ferris had given me. You probably have seen it, but I am moving from here, well, from down there, from Beach Street to Hollybrook, and we're losing some of the things that would be important to us. But Mother's looking down from heaven, and she's saying to all of you, thank you for coming to Mary Ann Show. Because, you know, it takes somebody to make things happen, and Mary Ann, you made it happen.
Thank you, Martha. I just wanted to, let's see, there were a couple of other things if I wanted to say if I had time.
I want to say a few words.
Please do. Please do.
I'm Gene Lindley from down West Union. My mother graduated from high school up here in 32. Grandma Rory was a teacher at high school, but I'm a little farm boy from West Union, never got to march over once a month maybe until the fall of 52. But that's when this choir was, and this brought back a lot of memories. My mom knew most of the families where these ladies from and always spoke highly of the Coldren girls. I've heard that at our table lots of times. My dad was a good friend of your dad and a lot of the others. And Charlie Bush, dad, gave me my first haircut down West Union. Either him or Schweitzer, they had a shop together. But anyway, it brought back old memories. And Mom and Dad and I, we couldn't carry a tune in the bucket, but we loved to hear them. And even Leon, I just seen some pictures the other day of Jackie when she's a little girl, and they're sitting on the back of a Studebaker, and her dad, Jack Nichols, probably bought it off of Leon Fitzgerald when the first sold Studebakers. And the duck, I forgot about the Marshall duck, but I got to ride in that in 1950 when, only 13 years old, 12 or just 12, because they built the brick church, had a dedication in the spring, early 50, and we couldn't get to the church with a car, and they brought the duck down and transported people. I just thought of that tonight. So it brought back a lot of memories. And
Good.
And I can remember at the high school, in the fall of 52, they would perform quite a bit at the high school, if I remember right. So I didn't want to miss this meeting. And you've done a beautiful job.
Oh, well, thank you. I brought a picture, well, it's on the DVD, but of the choir performing at the old gym at high school. And I put a magnifying glass, because some of you might find yourselves on the bleachers. We saw Ann Jensen, and who did you see, Gene?
I think one of the Conemacher twins is in it. Bill Elbridge is in it. I seen, Theda Ray Thompson was in it. She was in our class.
Okay.
And, the teen lady, Karen Tingley, she's passed on now. She married a Jensen, I think, the first time. But anyway, she's in it. But I did recognize some of them.
See, they're older than I am.
I'm about their age.
I wanted to mention, I'm so pleased so many of you from the class of 61 came. That was awfully nice of you. I don't know how much you remember. Anybody want to say? I know you want me to sit down and shut up, so I will.
I know you're about to, I married Jack at 16, but she went on to high school. She just about been in your class. So I about know how old you are.
How many was in the car? Because I don't.
Well, it varied. That one picture that they're sitting on their suitcases, who's close enough to count? Right there?
That's all I got.
Not even 20, I don't think.
Why did you want to know?
How many?
Right there.
Probably about 50, 12, just,
There's 14.
14.
Okay, so it would have
I think that's
varied.
about the highest they ever got was 14. But
Was
that was
it?
about 40, off and on over the years.
Yeah,
And
there-
one thing that we forgot to mention is they didn't just quit singing, they kept singing. There was a longevity in this part because Helen kept bringing in new people as, you know, people came and went and that, and gosh, when was the last time they sang when Helen Basil's?
Thank you, I wanted to say
That
that.
was in 65, but 75?
The Helen and Basil Moore Day,
Yeah.
it was 92, no,
Oh, okay. Well, they kept sitting, but they kept traveling and singing.
It was 92.
They stopped competing for at least a good 30 years. I mean, that says something. That's longevity.
okay. And when you said Brick Church, Ken Mackey was here last week at the National Road program. That was a really good program. I came to that. And he said he remembers them coming down to the Brick School. And he remembered Nancy Ping and, Dorothy Ping and Mother's sister Imogene. Does that ring a bell? Uh-huh.
Now, I know it was still there about 43 or 4, but how much? Well, I do remember it was there probably until about the time they consolidated, which is late 40s. But I've
Okay.
been over to some community where they used to have a box pie supper and put on a play. Yeah, it was right there west of the church.
But isn't it funny how you just remember things from, because that was a long time ago. Judy?
I was just curious, where did they practice? Did they practice
Oh,
the same place all the
thank you.
time?
I remember when they first started, they practiced at the funeral home downstairs. And then I remember them practicing at Aunt Ann's house. And I think mostly at the Legion.
Ann's a lot.
At most.
And where else?
At Ann's house a lot.
Because Aunt Ann had a piano and Mother had an organ at the funeral home.
I remember the Methodist church, because
Oh, okay.
Brad Milton and I ran up and down the pews.
But they practiced every week, didn't they? Like Wednesday night, I think.
Wednesdays,
Yeah, and I can remember them laughing. Carol, go ahead.
Well, I didn't realize, I think I either got in the choir when I was 17 or 18. Helen had said to, can you do this? And I did not realize the sacrifice they were making to do that every week. I've raised a family now, and to have gone every week and then on the weekends often to sing. I don't know how the husbands
Well, I'm
families.
not sure either. They had to have extended families who helped. And some of them sang pregnant. I know Aunt Ann was pregnant with Kurt at a contest. And in that picture back there, it looks to me like Betty Trebs-Able is in a maternity top. That's Patty's sister. There were two Betty Ables, Betty Trebs-Able and Betty Simpson-Able, who were married to brothers, and their sisters, Peasy Stoley. Go ahead.
Now, one of them Able girls is Don Abel's wife, widow.
Betty, yeah.
Betty.
Betty.
I just wondered if anybody remember too, at times we had quartets, we had a quartet and a trio.
Yeah, Martha Ann mentioned.
And we even,
And we
competed at contests.
Yes, we won also.
There are
We did a
pictures.
good job and won. Helen was very happy about it.
And did I mention the dress? Mindy, did I mention that? This was Geneva's dress. Just look at that. She's kept it all these years, and I've seen her wear it. I've seen Mindy wear it. And that's what they have on in, it's the picture that shows Mother kind of from the back. And that's the one that Frederick Black liked.
Martha Ann.
It was interesting that Pat White, I think it was Pat, kept all the songs in this little satchel. And then Helen get out, and then she would get out this piece of music, and she'd go to Coldest and then we'd sing that. It was, and no one seems to know where that satchel went.
Oh.
That's all right, we're thinking about you.
It's been a long time.
Right.
Carolyn and Jan, you grew up
I
right there.
practically lived
What
with
do you
your parents
remember?
sometimes. We remember we got to listen, if we were quiet. Probably didn't last. Sometimes we weren't there very long. Okay.
Mary
Well-
Ann mentioned that Leon Fitzgerald's parents lived right across the street from my parents in Martinsville, West Carolina. So I knew Mary Ann and Leon for many, many years. She was a wonderful musician. When she passed away, her sons forwarded to me a big portion of her organ library.
Oh,
You know, I made one mistake. Geneva Johnson had his satchel.
Oh, Geneva.
She had that little satchel about that big, and it carried every piece of music we'd ever seen or ever thought we were going to sing.
You
And
were.
Priscilla, you have it?
Yeah.
No.
That's where I got stuff.
Well, you've got it, it's safe.
Well, I offered it back to Mindy, but Mindy said, no.
Well, you were using it at the time from the.
But you're welcome.
We all still get along.
well, I think it's time to close. Thank you so much for coming. I told Allison, oh, I don't think we'll need more than 12 chairs. I goofed up on that just a little bit. I really do appreciate your listening to me and sharing with others. And now we have some permanent memories because we're leaving the DVD at the library and people can check that out. And I think I'm going to leave some of my pictures in some kind of a folder because I don't want to just put them in a drawer someplace at my house and have them get pitched. Oh, and I'm certainly not pushing it, not in the least. But it was mostly, I think, for family members of the choir who would want a DVD that, this one, with the pictures. I'm not asking everybody, I don't have very many anyway. I'm certainly not asking you all to buy one of those. And they're back there on the table with an envelope if you want to take one and put your money in it. And then they'll also be at the library if you know of somebody who wants one, and Allison said we could have them here. The DVDs are $10, and then there's a CD that just has the music. I did say Sally Turner made that, didn't I? From the record. And they're $5.
Can you say a minute, can you tell as many stories your dad could about
No.
Will Rogers?
And not the snake story either. I'm not a storyteller like that.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming to this evening's program. The library is still open. If you'd like to mingle through the main library, you may, or you can use this exit as well. But please take a look at pictures.
I want to say one more thing. Dr. Turner, who's doing the Loney Handy presentation, is the son of Eddie Turner, who sang in the choir. And he's told me several times he's going to write a book about the choir. But I doubt he gets around
Well,
to
and
that.
we did record this evening's program, and if you're not familiar with our oral history project, if you go onto our website, we have over close to 200 oral histories online, and we will be including this in our collection. And also Dr. Turner's presentation next week, so if you're unable to attend, you can get online and listen to that as well. So thank you again for coming. Thanks, Mary Ann.